So first things first, let's break down the true cost of the Sony Airpeak. So you're gonna need the T3 Grimsey gimbal. You're gonna need the Sony Airpeak body. Then you're gonna need batteries. For what the Sony Airpeak does, what you need to power it, I'm not gonna complain about the battery life or the battery cost. Then my wife recommended we protect our investment, so I found the cheapest warranty that you could get. Then you're gonna probably wanna have something to carry your Airpeak around in. So after using the box that Sony sent for the first 5 months, I invested in the actual Sony Airpeak case from GPC, which is actually awesome. For me, I feel like the Airpeak represented versatility, and I'm always trying to be versatile as possible in every situation I go into with the camera. Anything you guys have seen on my channel about the Sony Airpeak, I was never negative about it. I believed in what the Airpeak could be, and now the Airpeak is everything I thought it would be, and it's still getting better. When my wife and I made the investment, because without my wife, I wouldn't have been able to make an investment like the Sony Airpeak. When we decided to go forward with the Airpeak, and my wife asked me the question I'm going to answer for you guys in this YouTube video is like, why? Why do you need the Sony Airpeak? Why do we need the Sony Airpeak? What can it do? And I think the answer to that question for you guys, and the same thing I told her, is that it takes the level of quality of what we're doing in the things that we do and the people that we do it with. It takes it from like here to here. When I'm flying the Airpeak, I feel like I'm driving a spaceship, or it's like I'm flying a spaceship. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, the technology is so new and it's getting better and better every update. And the thing about me is when the Airpeak came out, I was super, I don't want to say mad, but I always looked to Gerald Undone, Jason Vong. With the Airpeak, I didn't have that opportunity because I was just trusting that Sony would do what they said that they're going to do, and that the platform would be able to do what I needed it to do. And for the most part, that's been true. I'm a professional drone pilot, and I take everything about flying drones seriously. But when I bought the Airpeak, that's a heavy lift drone. That's a different experience. I had to learn a whole new skill set. I had to learn how to think differently when I'm operating the Airpeak. And on top of having to learn all of that, all of the things that I was trying to learn to be able to operate the Airpeak safely, responsibly, and not lose my almost $20,000 investment, I also had to figure out how to get the best possible quality out of the Airpeak, drone-wise, camera-wise, without any help, essentially. I mean, I got a little bit of help from Sony, of course. I was always bugging them. Shout out to Travis, Craig Coker. There's a really good Sony Airpeak group where, for the most part, the people that own the Airpeak are really supportive. It's a good community for like learning and resources. And if you go to the Sony Airpeak group, I'm always in there trying to like find out more and figure out more answers and post and stuff. Like, I'm always trying to get stuff started because I need to learn more about what it does. Like, I want to use the Airpeak to do cool stuff for really good clients when it makes sense. I work with a lot of different high-level athletes. When I got the Airpeak, that was like the first thing on my mind, like, oh, I could probably do some really cool stuff with X player or this person. And, you know, it gave me an opportunity, and it could be the same thing for you. It gave someone like me the opportunity to be able to shoot the Sony FX3 or the Sony A1 in the air in 8K or S-Log 3 and just have such a professional look coming out of my drone that I never thought that would be possible for me. I want to talk about the two main reasons why, in my user experience and owning the Airpeak, I think it was a good investment for my wife and I. Number one is the unknown potential. I believe in Sony just based off of everything that they've showed me. BNC Camera did recently fly me out to an event where Sony was, and I got to be a Sony Airpeak pilot. I got to pretty much talk about my experience with the Sony Airpeak with people live in person, so that was super cool. The potential of the Airpeak is through the roof because, again, think about the new camera release, the Sony A7R5. You can put the Sony A7R5 on the Sony Airpeak and go in the air. That's just different. It's not normal to be able to take your Sony camera, put it on the Sony drone and fly in the air and get pictures and then come back down and edit them like you just took it on the ground. That's not normal. And to me, that was like the biggest reason why I got the Airpeak, because it's like, to be able to have the ability to do that with a drone, again, it's a very big investment, but I felt like the pros outweighed the cons. And that goes back to the unknown potential of the Airpeak is that if Sony keeps doing what they're doing right now and improving the Airpeak, making it better, I heard there's a rumor that there's going to be new batteries that come out for longer flight time. A lot of people have been complaining about the flight time, but they don't actually own the Airpeak. I've never complained about it. Would I want more flight time? Of course, I would rather always have more time in the air. But everything that I've done for paid work with the Sony Airpeak, I've been able to get by on having my 3 sets of batteries and having a plan when I fly. So the second reason is the dual operator mode. So for someone like me who's flown other drones, I've never been able to fly a drone with another person. I know it sounds funny. If any professional drone pilots are watching this, they might be laughing. I don't really care. I'm a creator. I do my thizzle. Being able to fly my Airpeak with another operator, so either Team JDP, my boy Tim, and they control the camera, I control the drone, or I control the camera, they control the drone. That's something that if you're like me and if you're coming from another drone and going to the Airpeak, the dual operator mode is going to be something that's going to be able to set you apart and put you in a different level of the things that you're creating with your drone. So for me, I still haven't got to experience that, and I've had the Airpeak for 9 months. So when I do, I will bring you guys along. I'm super excited for that opportunity to be able to fly with someone and see what we can create. But just even that, like different things like being able to fly in dual operator mode is something that excites me. And I know you guys are probably saying, well, there's other drones that have dual operator mode. And yes, that is true. But for me in my user case scenario, and it could be the same for you, if you do get the Airpeak, that's just another possibility that you can use with the drone. It makes me a more versatile hybrid creative. I do photo, I do video. I try to do both of those things at a very, very high level. When you introduce the Sony Airpeak into my lineup, and it could be the same thing for you if you're a hybrid shooter and you have any Sony camera, that makes you real dangerous when it comes to creating content. Now, with that being said, the Sony Airpeak is not a toy. It is a professional drone. There's been things out there said that the Sony Airpeak is easy to fly and easy to operate. That is somewhat true, but take it from me, someone who owns the Airpeak, someone who came from a smaller drone system into the heavy lift system. You need to know what you're doing when you're flying the Sony Airpeak. It is not a game. It is not a toy. You got thousands of dollars in the air when you're flying the Sony Airpeak. So don't get out there and think it's like a video game. That is not the case. You need to know what you're doing when you're flying the Sony Airpeak. But with that being said, the potential of what a Sony Airpeak shot could do for your career, it's unknown. Like, same thing. In my example, I'm not saying that the quality from the Sony Airpeak is going to make you this or that. But what I am saying is you will notice the difference of shooting the Sony Airpeak with the FX30, A7S III, Sony A1. Just that combo alone makes you and your production team seem like a Hollywood blockbuster studio because of the quality that you're getting. This was a real loose review of the Sony Airpeak, but I just wanted to talk to you guys on YouTube and give you my user experience of owning the Airpeak. I've had a lot of ups. I've had some downs. It hasn't been just this smooth, easy going, like, oh, this thing's great. It's been an up and down ride, but I do think the Sony Airpeak is the best drone in the world for photography, because once you put the Sony A1 or the A7R4 on the Sony Airpeak and you go into the Sony app, you guys get where I'm going with this? I'm not taking shots at no other drone companies or brands, but for this to be Sony's first drone and you to have the flexibility to put any Sony mirrorless camera, like the new ones that are coming out, different lens combinations, it's a really, really good investment if you know what you're doing and why you want to do it. I appreciate you guys stopping by the YouTube. My daughter just got home, so she's about to come up here and start wreaking havoc. So I will catch y'all in the next video. If you guys got any questions, you need anything, let me know. Peace.